Hello, everybody. Good evening. How are you all?
Good evening, sir.
Hello, good
Good,
evening.
good evening. Good evening. So, whosoever is unable to unmute their mic could register their presence on the chat box so that we are aware that you are there. Hello. Hello, Shadil. Really sorry if the pronunciation is wrong. Hello, Divya. Hello, Kui. Hello, Tanvir. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So, shall we start? Can you please write it on the chat box? Shall we start? Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so before starting with the sessions for AAA, let us first have a brief introduction of each other. So, this is here Supreet Agrawal. I would be telling you about myself a bit later on, but first of all, I would like to know a few details about you, as in what is your name, where do you belong to, what is your employment status, and what is your ACCA status, how many exams you have cleared, and so on. So, can we have the brief introduction one by one? If possible, please unmute your mic and introduce yourself.
Hello, sir. I hope
Hello.
I'm audible.
Yeah. Yes, you are
Shravya
audible.
this side. I've completed my skill level. I
Okay.
got most of the papers exempted because of IPCC,
Okay.
and I've already appeared for APM and SBR this
o-
September attempt.
Okay. So you have attempted. That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Okay.
And I did my articleship from EY, from Risk Advisory Services,
That's great.
majorly in internal audit.
That's great. EY India only?
EY India, yeah.
That's great. That's great. Good to meet you. Yeah.
Same here, sir.
Thank you. Yes. Next one, please.
Good evening, sir. My name is Hasib Makul, and I'm from Hyderabad. I have completed my chartered accountancy, and I'm currently working as a consultant in indirect tax domain with EY.
That's great. EY Hyderabad?
Yes, sir.
That's great. That's great. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Yes. Next one, please.
Hello, sir. Myself, Siddharth Pemawat. I'm from Rajasthan, and I'm doing right now job at Kalyaniwala Industry in Audit and Assurance, Stat Audit.
That's great. Good to see you.
Hi, I'm Kui from Singapore. I've just finished my FR, so I'm doing the professional level right now. Hopefully I pass my FR. Then I'm working in a local CPA firm.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Good to see you. Kwi.
Hi, this is Leena. And appear in the name of Divya. Actually, this is my
Yeah.
sister's laptop I'm using.
Okay. Okay.
But I'm a CA and working with Government of India and the CAG's office from last 23 years. And now wanted to upskill myself, so trying for this ACCA as well. And
That's great.
I got the exemption in 9 papers. This is that I'm planning to appear for SBR and AAA in December.
That's great. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I guess now we are left with 2 or 3 people more.
Hello, sir. Tanveer here from Bhavnagar, Gujarat. I'm a practicing chartered accountant, and I have cleared 2 SBR and SBL in
That's great.
past exams.
That's great. Good to see you.
Hello, I'm Sagar Thakkar
That's great. Hello. Hi, Sagar.
from Baroda, Gujarat,
Okay.
and I'm practicing chartered accountant.
That's
So
great.
that's what I have 9 exemptions over here.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I think 1 or 2 are left now. In the meantime, I'll just present my screen. Please confirm when you can see my screen. You can confirm on the chat box, not an issue. Yeah, great. So now that I have had all of your introduction, let me introduce myself. I'm C.A. Supreet Agrawal. Um, I'm C.A. Supreet Agrawal. I'm a qualified chartered accountant. Um, I'm an ex-EY India. I pursued my 3 years of internship, which is mandatorily required as per the rules of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India from EY India, particularly from a city called Pune in India. And then after qualification, I went to KPMG Bahrain as an assistant manager of audit. My internship was also into the audit, and that is how I developed keen interest towards audit. And after resigning from KPMG Bahrain, I started teaching CA, ACCA, and some parts of IIM Indore also. I particularly take sessions for ACCA audit, CA final audit, and then internal audit and forensic audit. So my core expertise lies in the audit domain only. Then after that, I am also an India Book of Records holder for my numismatic collections. For those who don't know the meaning of numismatic means different kind of coin and notes collection. So I have had India Book of Records for that. Currently, I train CA students, ACCA students, US CMA students, US CPA students, and some portions of IIM Indore students as well. So that is how my profile is. Today, we have met to discuss and to study about advanced auditing and assurance. So before moving further, I would like to understand that is there anybody who has actually appeared for AA instead of getting the exemption? Did anybody appear for the AA examination of the skill level? If yes, please write it on the chat box. No, all 9 paper exempted. Okay. Okay, Lena is there. Anybody else? Just waiting for 2, 3 more answers, then we can move forward. Exemption, okay. Okay, Lina. So in the meantime, can I request you to please unmute yourself? And if you remember certain topics which you have already studied as part of AA skills level, can you please elaborate a little bit on the syllabus part, that what you actually covered in the AA subject? Because this is an extension of your AA subject only, right? So can you please unmute yourself and elaborate a little about what all things you studied as part of your AA paper of ACCA skills level?
Sorry, sir. Actually, it is exemption from AA being chartered accountants. All 9 exemptions were there. So I mean to
Okay.
say that I got exempted only, not
Oh,
they
okay. Okay,
like that.
okay. Okay, okay, okay. Okay. So what I can see is that majority of the population is a chartered accountant, is a qualified chartered accountant, and that is how they have got the exemption for the skills level paper. That is 9 exemptions. And now they are starting with the professional level examination. Some of you have also appeared for certain professional level examinations like SBR and SBL, and now you are appearing for AAA as the first time. Okay, that is good point. So this would be a good time to discuss about the overall syllabus of AAA, because we are coming afresh to the professional level AAA, and none of us have actually cleared the A examination of skills level. So this would be the good time to discuss about the syllabus of AAA examination. So the syllabus of AAA examination is divided into multiple sections, which starts with a regulatory environment. So these are the sections. Under that, there are certain topics, certain chapters that we will need to understand about. So the first section is regulatory environment. Then professional and ethical considerations. Then we would be discussing about quality management and practice management. And then we would be moving towards the core auditing principles under planning and conducting an audit of historical financial information. And then we would be completing the completion review and reporting. And then there would be certain other assignments that we would be discussing about in detail. But before moving further, do you all think that it is necessary for us to understand our syllabus in detail, point by point, so that we are aware about the helicopter view of our syllabus and where are we actually headed towards by studying AAA as a subject? Do you all think that it is necessary for us to understand the syllabus first before moving towards the topic of the syllabus? Please write it on the chat box. These sessions are going to be very interactive. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you, Hasib. Thank you, Shaldalya. Thank you, Lina. Yes. Okay, so what we are going to do is, since this is our first session, so today's session and tomorrow's session are going to be around a lot of basic principles, certain core skills that we need as part of the ACCA examinations, certain basic points that we need to remember while preparing for ACCA professional level examinations, and so on. So we would be discussing about a lot of basic topics so that we are comfortable with the syllabus as well, and we are comfortable with the basic terminologies of the AAA examination. Will that be good? Okay. So the first section covers regulatory environment. What do we understand by the regulatory environment? In general terms, if we say regulatory environment, what do we understand? See, first two sessions are going to be very interactive because I want to understand that what understanding you have, you already have, so that we could frame the different understanding if required, or we can extend that understanding. Legal compliances, great. Okay, regulatory environment, legal compliances, okay. Legal compliances, governance of auditing framework, okay. Okay, so we talk about particularly about audit, then governance of auditing framework, good answer, good. Okay, so when we say a regulatory environment, it is a system. It could be defined as a system by which an activity is verified and monitored in the legal framework, whether it is being performed in the legal framework or not. That is how we can define regulatory environment, right? So under that, there are certain topics which we need to understand, which starts with international regulatory frameworks for audit and assurance services. International regulatory frameworks for audit and assurance services. Here, I would like to ask law and order. That's great. Okay. So here I would like to ask you all that As part of the ACCA syllabus, there are two ends of AAA syllabus that is available, right? Which one are we studying about? AAA International, right? AAA International. And when we say AAA International, if there would be certain references to the laws and regulations like Companies Act, which Companies Act it is going to be? Which country's Companies Act it is going to be? UK, yeah. So under international regulatory frameworks for auditing and assurance services, we are going to study about a lot of references from UK's Corporate Governance Code as well as UK's Companies Act. Like in India, we have Companies Act 2013. Similarly, there's Companies Act 2006 in UK, and we would be learning about certain key principles from that Companies Act as well. Also, there are certain councils, certain bodies, certain regulatory bodies that are created as part of the regulatory framework for audit and assurance services throughout the globe, and we would be understanding about them. So international regulatory frameworks for audit and assurance services covers certain references to the UK's Companies Act, to the UK's Corporate Governance Code, and under this we would also be understanding about certain committees like Audit Committee, Corporate Social Responsibility, and other committees. Do we understand this? Can we move forward? Yeah, great. So whenever you feel that the session speed is going too fast or it is going too slow, please feel free to write it on the chat box so that we could adjust. It would take roughly 1 or 2 sessions to adjust to each other's requirements, and then we would be in a flow. Okay. Then the second topic talks about money laundering. What do we understand as part of money laundering? As a journal term, not as a very legal term, but as a journal term, money laundering. What do we mean by it? Money laundering? Fraud. Okay. Okay. Fraud. Anybody else, please? Money laundering. What do we mean by money laundering? Okay, so even if you don't know the answer, you can feel free to write no in the chat box. Unaccounted money, okay, one good answer. Even if you don't know the answer, please feel free to write it on the chat box that we don't know the answer so that we could move forward. Illegal exercise of converting black money into white money, okay, or we could say into converting illegal money into the legitimate format. Okay, that is also a good point. Good. So money laundering is the process of conversion of illegal money or money obtained from illegal sources into the legitimate or legal sources. Okay. There are a lot of details that we are going to discuss about this money laundering also, and we would be taking up into the first session, which is chapter number 1, unethical ways of transaction. Okay. Then laws and regulations. Now, what is the difference between point number 1, which is international regulatory frameworks for audit and assurance services, and third point, which is laws and regulations? What is the difference? What is the difference? Laws and regulations. Third point talks about legal compliance, which are supreme. Okay, okay, okay. So first point particularly talks about the reference to regulatory frameworks which are particularly relevant for audit and assurance services. And third one talks about general laws and regulations as well. Also, as part of the third point, we are going to study about one of the critical international standards on auditing. So we all must be aware that in ACCA AAA syllabus, a lot of ISA, which is international standards on auditing, are tested, right? Are you all aware about some of the numbers of these ISA, like ISA 200? Are you all aware about the series? No? Okay. Okay. What about others? No? No, sir. Does it resemble essay series? Okay. No. Okay. Okay. Do you all have the book available with you? The BPP book available with you? In the hard copy format or the soft copy format, both would work. Do you have the book available with you? Yes. What about others? No. Okay. So for Indian chartered accountants, I would like to tell you that this resembles the essay series that we study in the Indian chartered accountancy syllabus. Now what I would do is, we have the e-copy or e-book available with us. So what we'll do is, we'll just go and revise these ISS numbers. Although we are not studying in totality, we would be understanding in detail wherever required. But as of now, we are just taking the basic reference. Okay, I'm not aware about the exact page number. Okay, now I found it. Okay. So just after reading about these ISs, what we will be doing is, we would be discussing about other contents, and then we would be moving towards the structure of the examination. That is our whole agenda for today. Okay. Okay, there's one chat. Sorry, sir, I got logged out. Okay, not an issue. What we are going to do is, we are just going to study about the number of ISs that are covered as part of the syllabus, and we would just be reading the names of it. Okay. And you can confirm on the chat box whether you are somewhat aware about these auditing standards. Okay. Okay. So the first one is ISA 200. ISA 200, which is overall objectives of the independent auditor and the conduct of an audit in accordance with ISAs. Yes, you are somewhere aware. ISA 200. SA 200. Okay. For Indian chartered accountant, yes, uh, it is the replica of your SA 200. Okay. Then ISA 210 is there. So we will not be reading about all of them, but I'm just giving you an idea. So ISA 210, again, agreeing the terms of audit engagements. Did you remember about SA 210 from here? Yes, sir, acquainted. Okay. Okay. If we go by this series, what should be 550? What should be ISA 550? Anybody remember? What was the name of SA 550? Anybody? You can feel free to answer no as well, not an issue. No? No? Okay. So SA 550, let us see what is ISA 550. Related parties. Okay. So there are certain standards on auditing. We would be understanding about these standards on auditing as and when required. Okay. But the third heading that we were discussing about, that is laws and regulations. Under that, we would be discussing about ISA 250, that is International Standards on Auditing 250, the name of which is Consideration of Laws and Regulations in an Audit of Financial Statement. That is how to ensure that whether proper laws and regulations are being followed by the company or by the auditee company or the client company. So when we are performing our services as an auditor, it is really important for us to follow all the international standards on auditing. And as part of that international standards on auditing, there's one particular international standard on audit, which is ISA 250, which talks about consideration of laws and regulations in an audit of financial statements. It gives certain audit procedures. It talks about certain audit procedures that helps us to identify whether the laws and regulations or the appropriate laws and regulations are being followed by the company or not. Do we understand this? Just the syllabus. Do we understand this? What is covered under laws and regulations? Yes. I'm expecting some more answers here because this is one critical point. Yes. Okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to understand the relevant ISAs as well, that is International Standards on Auditing as well. Now, when we would be taking today's session, we would be discussing about a lot of basic points. Out of that, one basic point is related to ISA only. So we would be discussing about more of them there. Okay. Now comes the second section of our syllabus, which is professional and ethical considerations. Under this, code of ethics for professional accountants. As of now, all of you or most of you are working in some or the other companies, right? As part of your performance or as part of your job responsibilities, you need to follow certain code of ethics. Am I right? You are required to sign certain annual confirmation, annual independent confirmations, right? Yes. So what which code of ethics do we follow? Do we follow the Indian code of ethics? Do we follow the international code of ethics or what? If we talk about India, do they follow CA Act? Okay. Chartered Accountants Act. Okay. Other than Qui, is there anybody else who has worked outside India in the in the auditing and assurance industry? Anybody who has worked outside India in the auditing and assurance industry? If yes, please mention on the chat box. No? Okay. Okay. So I'll tell you with my personal experience. Okay. So when I was working in EY India, the annual confirmations that I used to sign was as per the local act, which is Chartered Accountants Act. Okay. And the related code of ethics. Okay. Now, when I went to KPMG Bahrain, okay, which is near Dubai, the annual confirmation that I was required to sign was as per the International Code of Ethics. Now, do you remember who has actually created International Code of Ethics? Do you remember? Do you know who has created International Code of Ethics? There's one institution. Do you know the name of it? Please feel free to write it on the chat box. Even if you don't know, that's okay. No worries. So what we are going to do is we are going to understand about these code of ethics, who has actually created it, what all are the essential components of this code of ethics that all professional accountants, ACCA would be called as a professional accountant. So all professional accountant needs to comply with. Since ACCA is also considered as a professional accountant, so we also need to comply with these code of ethics. So we would be understanding about that under part 1 of section number 2. Then fraud and error. Fraud and error. Under this, we would be discussing about the another essay, which is, sorry, okay, okay, so it was played, okay. So when we would be moving towards the second point, which is fraud, which is fraud and error, we would be discussing about another standard on auditing, which is ISA 240, that is the auditor's responsibilities relating to fraud in an audit of financial statements. We would be understanding about that. Do we understand this till here? Do we understand this till here about the syllabus, about the brief part of the syllabus? Till here, is it clear? Yes. Then we would be talking about certain professional liabilities. Professional liabilities as in what would happen if auditor enters into certain misconduct. There would be certain liabilities that are associated with the auditing profession. So we would be understanding about that. Then we would be moving towards the third section, which is quality management and practice management. What do we mean by quality management and practice management? Can you tell me of certain regulatory framework, certain auditing standards, certain standards on auditing, which used to talk about quality management? SQC1, okay. Standard on quality control, okay. SA 220 also, okay. We used to read these together, okay. Okay. So ISA 220 should also talk about certain quality, right? So let us go and check. ISA 220. ISA 220, quality management for an audit of financial statements. So under this, we would be understanding about ISA 220, which is quality management for an audit of financial statements. Okay. Then advertising, tendering, and obtaining professional working fees. What happens is whenever we would be performing the auditing work or auditing services, we would need to obtain the professional work as well as we would need to select a certain amount of fees. All those formation of professional work, the securing of professional work, and the selection of fees should be covered by certain regulatory principles. So that would be covered under the advertising, tendering, and obtaining professional work and fees. Whether professional accountants would be allowed to advertise or not, whether professional firms are required to tender or not, whether or what all laws and regulations they need to follow while securing their professional work and while selecting their fees. We would be understanding under this section. Then professional appointments. So what all appointments we can accept, what all types of appointments that are available to a professional accountant, all those things we would be understanding about here. Then we would be moving towards the best and the most interesting part of the whole syllabus, which is planning and conducting an audit of historical financial information. First of all, I would like to understand that what do we mean by historical financial information? What do we mean by historical financial information? What do we mean by it? Anybody could answer. Historical financial information. Historical financial information. What do we mean by it? Financial information that is already compiled and needs to be examined to increase its credibility. That's a really great answer with very specific keywords. Anybody else? You can also unmute yourself. It's not necessary to just write it on the chat box. You can actually unmute yourself and answer, not an issue.
So I would like to add, basically assurance engagements are of two types. They're done on historical information as well as on prospective information.
Okay,
So
that's
yeah.
great. Yeah.
So I think this section particularly talks about financial information per se, financial statements that have already been prepared by management. and just to enhance his level of assurance
Okay.
and to cater to the needs of the financial users in a better way.
That's great. That's great. Okay. So summarizing the answer, summarizing both or all the three answers, the meaning of historical financial information is the financial information that is already created or prepared by the management. Now, auditor would perform his or her services or his or her procedures over these historical financial information with the sole purpose of increasing the credibility or providing reasonable assurance over the financial statements. That is the overall meaning of historical financial information. Rightly said that there are two kinds of financial information. One is historical financial information, and the other one is prospective financial information. We would be understanding about them in a little more detail in the later part of the discussion. But the meaning of historical financial information is clear now. Now, when we say audit, we mean examination of certain records by applying certain procedures. Okay. So under this, we are particularly talking about planning the audit as well as conducting the audit. So the overall audit process should summarize here. Like, what do we cover under audit planning? Anybody? What do we cover under audit planning? There are three phases of any audit, right? Planning, execution, and conclusion. So can you tell me what do we cover under audit planning? Any one procedure that we perform under planning. Scope, okay, defining scope, okay. Identify scope and layout, IDR, as in what? Okay, understanding the entity, good. Okay, so these procedures we perform under planning the audit, right? Then under execution, we initial data request, yes, okay, great. Idea means initial data request, that's great. Then when we move towards the execution of the audit, we would be understanding about all of them in detail in today's session only, okay? But I'm just giving you a brief. When we move towards execution part of the audit, then we take certain samples, we test it, we obtain certain confirmations and all these, okay? And then conclusion, under conclusion, we form the final report, we form the conclusion, we decide the type of opinion to be issued, okay? That is the overall purpose of planning, executing, and concluding the audit. So that is all covered over here. So under this, we would be understanding about a lot of ISS, that is international standards on auditing. Then the second point talks about evidence and testing considerations. We just said that another execution, what you need to do is you need to obtain evidences or samples, and then you need to test it. So we would be covering that. Then audit procedures and obtaining evidence. We discussed that we have to decide the method of obtaining the evidence. We would be understanding about that. Then using the work of others. Do we remember certain standards, certain guidance that we used to understand or we used to study as part of using the work of others? Who are others here? Okay, SA 600, 610, 620. Okay, great. Using the work of expert. Okay, okay. Experts, internal auditor. Okay, internal auditor. That's good point. Okay, so talking about all the Indian chartered accountants, you must have heard or you must have studied the series SA 600, SA 610, SA 620. So ISA should also be the replica of it. Let's just check. Let's go there and check whether it is the replica. Okay, so 600 series is not covered here, or it is at the downside. Yeah, it is at the downside. So SA 610 using the work of internal auditors. ISA 620 using the work of an auditor's expert. So we would be understanding about that also. Okay, under this section. Okay, then group audits. What do we mean by group audits? All of you are in the auditing, are performing work in the auditing industry only, right? Have you all ever been engaged to a group audit? To a group audit? A lot of you, or most of you, I should say, are working in the auditing industry in Big Fours, right? A lot of you are working in the Big Fours. So have you all ever been involved into a group audit? Group audit? No? Okay. What about others? Is it group pack reporting? Yes. Yes. Group pack reporting. So group reporting that we generally call in Indian Big Fours, that is group audit. No, sir, only taxation experience. Okay. Okay. So I'll tell you the brief. What happens is in India, the financial year starts from 1st April to 31st March. So what we do is generally what we do is we perform the statutory audit of companies for the period 1st April to 31st March. Now, internationally, in a lot of countries, the financial year is same as the calendar year. Okay, that is, it starts from 1st January 2020, 1st January to 31st March. Kui, I would like to understand from you that what is the financial year that we follow in Singapore? Can you please tell me? Kui, are you there?
Hi. Okay. The financial year end can be any month.
Okay, could be any month. Okay,
Yeah.
that's okay. So what happens is internationally, we follow calendar year as the financial year. Now what happens is there's a company called A Limited. Okay, there's a company called A Limited, which is based in USA. Now that USA based company has a subsidiary company in India, which is B Limited. Okay, is this case clear first? A Limited, which is the holding company, is in USA, and there's a subsidiary company which is in B Limited, which is situated in India. Is this case clear first? Yeah. Okay. Now the financial year that is followed by the holding company is 1st January to 31st December. Whereas when we talk about the subsidiary company, the financial year that is followed is 1st April to 31st March. That is, these two financial years are different. Now, when we talk about consolidation, do you know the meaning of consolidation? Every subsidiary company needs to be consolidated to its holding company. Okay. So when A Limited started consolidating the numbers or the figures of B Limited, it faced one issue. That is, the numbers were not comparable or they were not for the same period. So periodicity principle of accounting was not being followed. That is how the problem arose in front of A Limited. Now, what is the solution of this one? Now, what is the solution? Should we consolidate different calendar years or different financial years? Should we consolidate, or there's some solution that could be adopted? Interim financial statements. Okay. Okay. We would be discussing about interim later on. Anybody else? Any other solution that you suggest? Or we should just consolidate different financial years? Okay, so what happens is, since this problem is a very big problem because the numbers are in millions of dollars or sometimes in billions of dollars as well. So what happens is, this creates a new kind of assignment for Indian practice, which is group reporting. In this, what happens is the subsidiary company, which is B Limited, hires an auditor to prepare the financial statements of B Limited for the period, or to audit the financial statements of B Limited for the period from 1st January to 31st December, for the sole purpose of facilitating the consolidation process of A Limited. Do you understand this first of all? A Limited is there with calendar year as the financial year. B Limited is there with a different financial year. So what B Limited did was, B Limited hired a local auditor with the sole purpose of auditing the financial numbers for the calendar year for the sole purpose of facilitating the consolidation. Do you understand this? Yes, yes. This is known as group audit, which we commonly called as group back reporting also. Okay. This is the fourth section of our syllabus. Okay. Now let us move forward to completion, review, and reporting. What do we mean by subsequent events? Subsequent events, anybody? I'm just discussing basic points with you for now, so that when we move to the main points, we should have certain basic understanding. What do we mean by subsequent events? Because it is really important for us to understand the syllabus first before moving or before diving deep into the content. So subsequent events, anybody? Events occurring after balance sheet but before presentation of FS. Okay, events after reporting financial statements, even events after balance sheet. Okay, so event after the reporting date, which is globally 31st December, and in India it's 31st March. So we'll take 31st December for all of our examples. Okay, so subsequent events are the events that happens after the reporting date, that is 31st December, up to when? Up to approval of the financial statements by board of directors, up to signing of financial statements by the auditors, or what? There are two possibilities, right? Events after balance sheet date up to the review of financial statements or the approval of financial statements by the board of directors, or up to signing of financial statement by the auditor. Which one is the right option? There are two options. Approval by board, okay? Approval by board, okay? Okay. Okay, so we would be discussing about that when we would be discussing about it in detail. But there's one particular standard which talks about subsequent event. Indian Chartered Accountants, do you remember? SA, which SA? Since majority of the population or majority of the students are Indian Chartered Accountants, so I'm answering that IAS 37, okay? No, I'm talking about ISA, International Standards on Auditing. Subsequent events, anybody? IAS 37 is also about provisions and all. IAS 10 talks about events after the reporting date. Okay, ISA 560. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? No worries. We'll just go and check for subsequent events. Okay. 560, somebody said? Yeah. So 560 is ISA 560 is subsequent event. So we would be discussing or understanding about this international standards on auditing under that point. Okay. Then the next point is going concern, subsequent events and going concern. What do we mean by going concern? What do we mean by going concern? What do we mean by going concern? Fundamental accounting assumption. Okay, that's great. It's a fundamental accounting assumption. So fundamental accounting assumption means that if it is there, we don't need to broadcast it or we don't need to express it. But if going concern is missing, then we have to disclose it. Okay. Survival of the organization following years, about future viability of the company. Okay. So can I say that going concern is the assumption that the company would go on forever? Can I say that? I'll repeat. Under going concern, can I say that going concern assumption is the assumption that the company would go on forever? Oh, can I say that? Forever? Anybody? Foreseeable future, yeah? So not forever. It's foreseeable future. Forever means there's no end. But when we say foreseeable, it means that as of now, till where we can see, or as far as we can see, there's no condition to say, or there's no element to say that there's any hindrance of going concern assumption. So foreseeable future is the right word. So going concern means that the organization would go on for foreseeable future. That is, as far as we can see, there's no element which could pose that the organization would not be able to continue. Then, in the context of, Hasib has said that in the context of auditing, if going concern is not expected, the audit procedure would be changed. Definitely, yes. Right point. Okay. Is there some standard for going concern as well? Is there some standard for going concern as well? Anybody? Any auditing standard for going concern? 570. So 560 was subsequent events and 570 is going concern. Okay. Okay. Let us just go and see. ISA 570 is going concern. So we would be understanding about that. Then completion and final review. When we say completion and final review, all people who are doing job in the auditing and assurance industry, what do you prepare as part of your completion procedure and final review procedure? What do you do? There's one document that you prepare, right? SRM, summary review memorandum, right? EVA India. Okay. Anybody else? Audit report. Okay. Audit report. But we would be discussing about audit report a bit later on. Before audit report, there is one final document that is prepared. SRM, rightly said SRM, right? Where what we do is we summarize all of the audit procedure, that what are the results of all the audit procedure. We also check here whether we need to reperform certain procedures, right? We reassess our materiality. We check whether reassessment is required. We check for uncorrected and corrected misstatements. Remember? Remember? Please say yes or no. Not an issue. If even if you don't remember, we are going to study anyways. Not an issue. Follow up things also. Yeah. Okay. Then auditors reports. So then we prepare the audit after understanding or after confirming all the final review procedure. What we do is we prepare the audit report. Is there any particular standard which is used while preparing auditor's report? 700 series. Okay, you didn't say 700, 701, 705, 700 series. Why so? So audit report includes opinion, CAM, and other things. Okay. So there are multiple standards. There are multiple auditing standards which needs to be complied with while forming the auditor's report. So like Hasiba said, 700 series. So let us go and see what is 700 series. So in 700 series, there is forming an opinion and reporting on financial statements. This means audit report. Forming an opinion and reporting on financial statements. That is audit report. Then 701, selecting or communicating key audit matters. We would be understanding about that also. Then SS 705, which is modifications to the opinion. Do you remember? There are certain types of opinions that we discussed about: adverse opinion, disclaimer of opinion, qualified opinion, right? And unmodified opinion. Yeah. Yes. Okay, why are others not answering other than Hasib and Ispama? I'm really sorry if I'm mispronouncing the names. It is really hard to read and pronounce it in the correct manner. Siddharth. Okay. So why others are not answering? Only I can see Hasib and Siddharth and Shaldya answering. Why not others are answering? Because see, if you don't interact in the class, I cannot understand that what needs more understanding. Okay. What needs to be very quick, and I will be balancing all of them. So that is why I would really request that at least in first 1 or 2 classes, be very responsive so that I could understand that what is the overall mindset of the class, what is the overall strength of the class, and where we could move forward and where we should wait and understand in a very slow manner. Okay, so that would be fruitful for you as well as for me. So SA705 is modifications. Rightly said, there are multiple types of opinions: adverse opinion, qualified opinion, right? Then a disclaimer of opinion and unmodified opinion. We would be discussing about that. Then emphasis of matter paragraph and other matter paragraph. We would be understanding about all these standards in the auditor's report section. Okay. Then reports to those charged with governance and management. Reports to those charged with governance and management. Reports to those charged with governance and management. Who are those charged with governance? Who are called as those charged with governance? What kind of people are called as those charged with governance? BOD, board. Okay. 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 So those charged with governance are always board of directors. Those charged with governance are always board of directors, those who are responsible for strategic direction in the company. Yeah. So what happens is there are three levels. Okay. Management, board of directors, and those charged with governance. Okay. So you need to understand these three very clearly. What happens is those charged with governance are the ultimate holders of the company. So these might be the promoters of the company. Okay. Or the ultimate owners of the company who might not be the directors of the company. So these are called as those charged with governance, because what happens is in a company, the management or the person managing the business and the person who is owning the business might be different. Correct? Owner and manager might be different. So the person who is the owner is called as those charged with governance, and the person who is managing it is called as management, or in other words, board of directors, because board of directors have the responsibility to manage the business or day-to-day business, whereas those charged with governance might not have the duty regarding day-to-day management of the business. They are the ultimate owners or ultimate stakeholders of the company. Understood this point? Understood this point? Please tell me. Yeah? Yes? Okay. I expect, can we say those who have controlling interest? No, no, no. Saying controlling interest is a bit different. We will be taking it up later on, but as of now, let's not take it. But that is not true for those charged with governance. Okay. Okay. Now, do you all need a break, a short break, 5-minute break? It's been more than an hour since we have been studying. Do you all need a break, 5-minute break? Please write it on the chat box. Yes. Sure. Yes. Okay, so let's just take a 5 minutes break. We'll be back. Let's not cancel the meeting, please. Okay, let's just mute or stop your videos if you have unmuted yourself, but do not stop the meeting. We'll resume in exactly 5 minutes. Okay, so it's 7:05. We will be resuming at 7:10. Okay, as per Indian time. Okay, so let's resume. Is everybody back? Please confirm on the chat box if you're back. Yes, great. Yeah, great. Okay, just waiting for 1 or 2 more responses. Then we can resume. Yes. Okay. So the next section of the syllabus talks about other assignments. When we say other assignments, what do we mean? Other assignments, what do we mean? other than auditing assignments, of course, but what all could be the nature of assignments? PSU, audit, bank audit. Okay. So when we say other assignments, what we are essentially trying to say is what all types of assignments could a statutory auditor of a company could accept. Okay. So there are a lot of other assignments and we would be discussing about each one of them. Okay. So number one is due diligence. Do you know what is due diligence? Due diligence means ensuring that whether a particular transaction or a particular event is happening by fulfilling all the legal and ethical requirements or not. That is due diligence. So that is why there is legal due diligence, there's tax due diligence, there are other due diligences also. Then review of interim done before M&A usually. Yes, due diligence. Yes. So a lot of us must have seen Shark Tank, right? When we see the pitch, we see a check is cut at the end of the pitch, right? But before encashing that check, a due diligence is being performed. That is whether the claims made by the entrepreneurs are right or not. If they are not right, then the check amount is also not given. Then review of interim financial information. When we say review, what do we mean by it? There's one kind of company for which review is mandatory. Do you know which company? There is one category of company for which review is mandatory. Review of interim financial information is mandatory. Do you know which one? Public company, okay, or I should say listed company, because there is a slight difference between the public company and the listed company, right? So listed company. Okay, so for a listed company, review of interim financial information is mandatory. It is done periodically, right? What is that periodic duration? Every month, every quarter, every 6 months, or every year? What is the frequency of review of financial interim financial information? Yes, quarterly. So whosoever has been working in the audit and assurance industry, especially in the big fours, they must have seen a lot of assignments which is regarding the review of interim financial information, which is conducted on a quarter to quarter basis. The sole purpose of performing these review of interim financial information is to provide regular data and frequent data to the users of the financial statements. Okay. Do international standards on auditing, that is ISA, applies to review of interim financial information also? So like going concern, subsequent events, all the ISA that we have studied so far, do they apply to review of interim financial information also? Do they apply to review of interim financial information also? If not, then what should be applicable? What are the governing principles of review of interim financial information? Separate standards. Okay. What about others? What others has to say about it? What others has to say about it? What others have to say about it? Please tell me. Yes. ISRE series must apply. Okay. What do we mean by ISRE? International standards for RE review engagements. Okay. ISRE, international standards for review engagements. So there are different kinds of standards which are being framed. Can we see that on our book also? Let us just check. What do you say? Will that be there or not? What do you say? Yes. Okay. Let's just see. 2000 to 2999 series. Okay. Okay. I'm just waiting for the book to be loaded. I'm just waiting for the book to be loaded. It's not getting loaded. So although the book is not getting loaded, I have the physical book available with me right here. So there are two standards which are mentioned under ISRE, which is ISRE 2400 and ISRE 2410. Since the book is not loading, what I'll do is I'll just read it from here. So ISRE 2400 talks about engagements to review historical financial information or statements. That is, what all procedures needs to be performed while accepting engagements to review historical financial statements. And then ISRE 2410, which is review of interim financial information performed by the independent auditor of the entity. Okay, these are the two standards which is covered under ISRE. Part of our syllabus, we would be understanding about that in this part of our syllabus. Then prospective financial information. In the earlier part of our discussion, somebody said that there are two kinds of financial information. One is historical financial information, that is the information which is already prepared by the management for past years. Okay, that time we just said that prepared by the management, already prepared by the management, but that is wrong. Why? Because if the financial information for the next year is also already prepared by the management, then will that be considered as the historical financial information? Definitely not. So that is why the complete sentence is the information which is already being prepared by the management for the previous years or for the time which has already lapsed or already ended. That is called as historical financial information. That is financial information of the history. When we say prospective financial information, this is the financial information for the upcoming period. It could be for upcoming months, upcoming quarters, upcoming years, okay, or upcoming decades also. So prospective financial information, we would be learning about them also. Forecast, budgets, yes. Yes. Okay. And then forensic audit. So we would be discussing about forensic audit also. What do we mean by forensic audit? What is the difference between the normal external audit and the forensic audit? Audit for frauds specifically. Okay. Okay. Let's take a break now. Just tell me that is my voice and the speed and the pronunciations are clear or not? Because that is really important for us to understand today. Clear? Yes? Okay, great. Absolute level of assurance. Okay, forensic absolute level of assurance. Okay, we will be discussing about absolute and reasonable later on. Okay, order for fraud specifically. Okay, so if I say, if I put it in this way, okay, there's a new message, investigation form, investigation. Okay, so if I say it in this format, that forensic audits are acceptable in the court of law, will that be right? Yeah. So what happens is you must have seen certain movies where there's a forensic department, right? A murder has happened and there's a forensic department which is performing its investigation, right? So why is it called as a forensic department? Because the meaning of the word forensic is acceptable in a court of law. So whatever is acceptable in a court of law, it is called as a forensic. Okay, so that is why forensic science, that is science which is acceptable in the court of law, is called as a forensic science. Okay. Similarly, audits which are acceptable in the court of law is called as forensic audit. Okay. Now, forensic audit must be performed with certain scientific techniques or certain audit procedures only. Okay, or let me rephrase. Which one is more detailed? Forensic audit or external audit? Which one is more detailed? Forensic. Okay. Which one is more comprehensive? That is, which one covers more details? Which one covers more details? Which one covers more details about an entity? Confused? Okay. I'll give you an example. External has larger scope, I guess. Okay. I'll give you an example. What happens is there's a company. Okay. There's a company in which the directors suspect or the government suspect that something fraudulent, uh, or some fraudulent activity is going on as far as the cash and cash equivalent transactions are concerned. Okay. So the directors and the government is suspecting that in the cash and bank balances, there's a fraud that is being conducted by the company. Now they have hired the forensic auditors. Okay, the scope of the forensic auditor is to focus only on cash and cash equivalents. Okay, that is, they would perform very high, very detail oriented analysis, but that would specifically be for the cash and cash equivalents. Whereas when external auditors are hired, they're never given such a scope that, okay, you just audit cash and cash equivalents. It is never the scope. The scope is to audit the whole financial statements. And that is why it is said that forensic audit might be more detailed, but external audit is more comprehensive. Understood this point? Understood this point? We would be discussing about forensic audit, external audit, interim financial information, review procedures, prospective financial information, everything in detail later on. This is just for the index because we need to make ourselves comfortable with the index, because none of us have appeared for double examination of the skills level, right? Okay, then the audit of, the third point is the audit of social. External audit procedures are based on materiality and sample size. Forensic audit is detail oriented. Okay, that is also correct. Then the audit of social, environmental, sustainability, and integrated reporting. Social audit, there's something called social audit, environmental audit, sustainability audit, all the ISO standards, International Standardization Organization, ISO standards, right? You must have heard of certain ISO standards. So those are particularly for social audits, environmental audit, and sustainability audit. Have you heard of integrated reporting? What do we mean by integrated reporting? Integrated reporting. Have you heard of it? Yes, 6 capitals. Okay. 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 Anybody else? No? Okay. So what happens is, initially, the company used to report their financial losses. Okay. Financial losses and profits only. That is their financial results only. Then the regulators realized that there are certain companies which might not be performing so well in as far as the report focuses on non-financial information as well. Okay, that is also great. So what happened was the regulators realized that there are certain companies which might not be performing so well as far as the financial metrics are concerned, but they have a rich source of natural capital available to them. Okay, or they have very efficient manufacturing capacity. Okay, or their employees are very dedicated, very loyal employees. Okay, now, or they have certain trademarks or patents which they are not able to generate into the financial terms. So what happened was the regulators realized that only looking at the financial perspective of a company is not sufficient to perform the proper analysis of the company. What is more required is that the company should be looked at from 360 point of view, or 360-degree point of view. That is, all aspects of a company should be evaluated while performing the analysis or while performing the evaluation of any particular company. So they named as 6 capitals. Although this is not the right time to elaborate on those 6 capitals, but since some of you have said that they remember those 6 capitals, can you please tell me the name of those 6 capitals if you remember? Those 6 capitals if you remember. Can you please tell me the name? Manpower, okay, human capital, social capital, okay, manufactured capital, okay. So manpower as in human capital, the employee strength, social capital, the social status of the company, brand image, manufacturing capital or manufactured capital, that is manufacturing capacity, financial capital, natural capital, access to natural resources, intellectual capital, possession of intellectual property, trademarks, copyrights, patents. Okay. Okay, so these are the 6 capitals. Okay, so we would be discussing about that under other assignments. Then the audit of performance information, predetermined objectives in the public sectors, like we said, bank audits and all. Then reporting on other assignments. So there would be certain other assignments also that we would be studying about. Then there would be a section of current issues and developments. So there we would be discussing about certain issues that are being faced by the profession and what are the developments over there. Then professional skills. Are you all aware that as part of your examination, certain marks have been given to the professional skills also? Other than your core auditing knowledge, certain questions would be asked towards the professional skills. Are you all aware about that? Yes. Are you all aware? No? Okay. Um, has anybody of you completed the ethics module? There's one ethics module, right? There's one ethics module which could be completed after skills level, although it is not mandatory, but which could be completed, which is unlocked after the skills level. Has anybody completed that ethics module of ACCA? Not yet. Anybody? Anybody who has completed? No? Okay. Okay. Sorry. So what happens is it is recommended, okay, not um, as a general point of view, it is recommended that you complete that ethics module before appearing for your skills level, because as part of ethics module you get to learn about certain professional skills which are actually asked in your examination, which is actually asked in your examination. Okay, what is the uh, what are the marks that are allotted to these professional skills in each examination of professional level? Are you all aware? We would be discussing about the exam pattern just after this discussion, but are you all aware? 20 marks, yes. So 20 marks of each professional level paper is given to professional skills. Now, what are those professional skills? Communication, analysis and evaluation, which is mentioned here, professional skepticism and judgment, and commercial acumen. Okay, so these four professional skills needs to be discussed about. Total how many marks? 20 marks. Out of 100 marks, 20 marks is allotted to these professional skills. We would be discussing about that in a bit more detail when we discuss about the exam pattern in today's lecture only. Okay. Okay, yeah. Then there are some employability and technology skills also. Okay, let's just read it. We would be discussing about that just after this, when we would be discussing about the format of examination. Okay, so employability and technology skills. Number one, use computer technology to efficiently access and manipulate relevant information. So you should know how to operate the computers. Work on relevant response options using available functions and technology. You should be you should be aware about the available options. Then navigate windows. You should know how to navigate windows computer screens. Okay, and amend responses to exam requirements using the appropriate tools, and then present a data and information effectively using the appropriate tools. So whatever tools are available, you should be well aware about the working of that. Okay, so with this we complete the understanding of the syllabus. First of all, is this understood? Is this understood, the syllabus? I would request at least 4 or 5 answers here, because that is really critical. Yes, great. Thank you, Shaldia. Thank you, Siddharth. Thank you, Lina. Okay, what about others? Who all are there? Okay, so there's Hasib, there is Qui, there is Tanvir also. What about you three? Did you all understand the syllabus now? See, these two sessions, first session and the second session, are going to be very light. Okay, we'll just get the basic understanding so that we could accelerate. Yes, yes, okay. So that we could accelerate later on. Okay, that is the whole understanding. Okay. Okay, so now that we have understood about the syllabus of our examination, let us go towards understanding format of the examination. So how many questions would be there? Please be very quick. How many questions would be there? I'm specifically asking to those people who will be appearing for the professional level for the first time. There's somebody who has cleared SBR and SBL. Okay, but other than those people, do you all know how many questions would be there? How many questions would be there? No, three to four. No, okay, okay. Okay. And the question pattern would be direct questions or case study, case scenarios based. Case study, case scenario, or direct questions, scenario based case scenarios. Okay. Okay, so let us understand about the format of the examination. Okay, so there would be particularly 3 questions. Okay, first question is of 50 marks out of the total 100 marks paper. Question number 1 is of 50 marks. Okay, no choice is given. Okay, question number 1 is of 50 marks. Okay, so I have particularly mentioned about 3 parts, which is question type, then the marks allotted, then the expected topics as per what is mentioned in your BPP book. BPP as in this one book. Okay, in this book, whatever is mentioned, I have mentioned it over here. Okay, so question type is case study type. Okay, then the marks are 50 marks. Okay, here you can see that it is mentioned that including 10 professional marks, that is out of this case study 10 marks. Could you please share BPP book PDF? Although I cannot share, I have access to the ebook, but I cannot share it. What you can do is you can ask from the institution if they can share or if they can provide you certain thing. Okay, so 50 marks. Out of this 50 marks, 10 marks are allotted for the professional skills. We discussed about 4 professional skills. 10 marks have been allotted to that. Now, what are the expected topics here? Planning stage of the audit. We discussed that we would be understanding about a lot of ISA, which is International Standards on Auditing, for the planning stage of the audit, which is full 300 series. Then group of companies also, and potentially several audit clients also. Okay, so the expected topics would be those topics. Then question number 2 and 3. What is the question type here? Short scenario. What is the difference between case study and short scenario? What is the difference between case study and short scenario? What is the difference between case study and short scenario? Case studies detailed could test multiple topics and instance versus the whole study. Okay. Okay. So what happens is when we talk about case study, it is a very detailed one. Okay. It tells you from the starting to the end. Okay. And then it tells you about multiple topics. When we talk about case scenario, it is generally an extract from the case study. Okay, and then some certain questions are framed over there. So question number 1 is case study. Since it's a case study, it would be a very detailed one, and that is why 50 marks are allotted to it. Okay, 10 professional marks and 40 normal marks. Okay, so out of 100 marks of paper, question number 1 would contain 50 marks. Okay, what are the expected topics? Planning stage of the audit for a single company, for a group of companies, or for potentially several audit times. Then question number 2 and 3 would be short scenarios. So total 3 questions. Number 1 case study, number 2 short scenario, number 3 also short scenario. Okay, what are the marks? Definitely 25 marks each, but out of that also 5 marks each would be of professional skills. That is 10 professional skills would be covered in question number 1, and then 10 would be covered in 2 and 3 equally. Okay, then expected topics. Expected topics. Expected topics. It is mentioned that one question out of these 2 scenarios, one scenario would always predominantly come from syllabus section number E, and the other can be drawn from remaining section. Which one is section number E? Can you see which one is section number E? This one, completion, review, and reporting. So out of the 2 case scenarios, one question would be on either on subsequent events or going concern or completion final review or audit report or report to those charged with governance and management. So one scenario would be on that. Okay, and then other could be drawn from any section of the syllabus. Understood this point about the questions first? Understood this point about the questions first? Please mention. Yes, I'm expecting more answers here because it is really important for us to understand this. Yes. Then we discussed about 2 sections, which is quality management and practice management and current issues and developments, right? So these quality management and ethics. So like in SBR, we get one specifically to target ethics. Will that be the case here? No. Not specifically. It is covered. It would be covered as part of case study or case scenarios like we discussed. Okay. Okay. So quality management and ethics. It could be asked in any section. Quality management and ethics. That is this section. The upper one could be asked in any question. Okay. As part of the question, not the direct question, but as part of the question. Similarly, current issues. That is this one. Professional and ethical developments could be asked as part of any question because it is unlikely to be asked standalone, but it can be integrated into any of the question. Did you understand about this first format of the examination? Did you understand about this first? Yes. So this is as per the BPP book, which you all must have received. Okay, this is as per that book. Now, other important points. So we will read about each one of them and we will try to understand this in a better way. Okay. Okay. So quality management and ethics, like we said, it could be asked in any question. Current issues we have discussed that unlikely to be asked standalone, but it can be integrated into any question. Then meaning of question were like when it is said that design audit procedures or discuss audit procedures or criticize certain points or recommend or analyze, do we know the difference between each one of them? Do we know the difference between each one of them? Do we know the difference between each one of them? Yes. Okay. What about others? Do we understand what we would answer when we would be asked to design or when to discuss and to criticize or recommend? Yes, sir. Expectation of examiner is different with every action verb. Yes, definitely. So what we will be doing is we will have to understand about these verbs. So design, discuss, criticize, recommend, analyze, verify. There are a lot of verbs. We would be understanding about each one of them in detail. Okay. But we would be planning to discuss about it a bit later on when we would be having certain good idea about the questions. Will that be fine? Yes. So question works we would be discussing later on. Then we discussed about auditing standards, right? So as of now, we have just discussed about 2 points. As part of the syllabus discussion, we just discussed about 2 points. That is ISA, International Standards on Auditing, and ISREs, which is International Standards on Review Engagements, right? But there are other types also. So let us just read it. Wherever required, we'll take reference. Okay, other than that, we don't need to directly read it. So International Standards on Auditing, ISN, is the number one. International Standards on Assurance Engagements, ISAEs. What are assurance engagements other than audit and review? What are assurance engagements other than auditing and review? Can you give me certain example? There are separate standards formed for assurance engagements, which is called as ISAEs. So can you give me an example of one engagement, which is assurance engagement? Anything? Internal controls. Okay. Okay. Good one. Certification services. Do you understand certification services? Sometimes you are required to certify certain numbers, so certify net worth, right? So all these are considered as valuation. Yes. So all those are considered as assurance engagements. Then we might take reference from certain practice notes, international auditing practice notes. What are practice notes? Practice notes are formed by different regulators to facilitate the practice of that particular thing. So for example, when we say that there's a practice note on integrated reporting, so when you perform practically integrated reporting, what all issues you might face, how to deal with those issues, that are covered in the practice notes. So international auditing practice notes. Then international standards, just like guidance notes. Yes, definitely, exactly like guidance notes. Okay. Then international standards on quality management. When we say international standards on quality management, this is particularly for the firm as well, for the auditor as well. Then international standards on related services. Okay. So which the services which are not at all covered under any other particular thing are called as related services. Okay. Then international standards on review engagement, we have already discussed about review engagements in detail. And then wherever required, we will be understanding about ethical guidelines. So we might have to understand about some or all of these international standards as part of our syllabus. Do you understand this till now? Do you understand this? Yes. Okay. Okay. I would expect all of you to answer this because it is really critical for me to understand whether you all understand this. Yes. Okay. A simple why would do, not an issue. You don't need to write full yes. A simple why would do, not an issue. I just need to get the response. Okay, so now that we have understood about the syllabus, about certain important points of the examination, certain format of the examination, what do you think? Would you like, do you like the syllabus? Do you think that yes, we'll get to learn a lot of new things as part of the syllabus? Yes, seems interesting. Yes, don't worry, we'll try to make it very interesting. Okay, we'll enjoy the sessions to a very high extent because we'll be taking real life examples also wherever required. Yes, yes. Okay. Okay, which topic of the syllabus or which content did you like most? What do you feel? Which one would you enjoy the most? Regulatory environment or professional ethical consideration or planning audit or quality management? Planning audit, okay. Okay, or completion review and reporting. So planning audit, audit planning and execution, okay. Okay, okay. Special audits as well, okay. Due diligence review of interim financial information, that's great. You know which one I like most? I like most the completion part, the completion review and reporting part of the audit. Although I love audit planning and special audits as well, but the topic that I like most is completion review and reporting because that summarizes all of your points. Because we have to reassess the planning also, we have to look at the special audits also, we have to look at the work of others also. We have to particularly consider all points and then decide on a course of action. So that is why I personally like the completion one most. Agreed? Yeah, thank you. Okay. So wherever required, it's not necessary for us that we'll be going in the sequence only. Wherever required, we could shuffle up, we could shuffle up certain topics here and there. It is a crash course of full audit. No, no, it's full audit only. Okay. You're talking about the completion review and reporting. Yes, it's a crash course of full audit. Yes. Okay. Okay, so now let us move forward. Now there are certain exam success skills that we are going to discuss about. That is, what are certain critical skills that we should focus on from day one, from first lecture, so that we prepare ourselves from day one for the examination. That is, it should not happen that for the next months to come or for certain weeks we are just upskilling ourselves with the syllabus and then we are framing our personality or thought process in such a way to make it ready for the examination. It should not happen. Whatever thought process is needed for the examination, we should try to form it right from the class. Agreed? Yes. So for that, what I have done is I have summarized certain success points that we need to understand from day one before starting with our core syllabus. Okay. So number one is managing information, because one critical factor that I have understood after talking to a lot of ACCA aspirants or qualified is that management of information is one critical point. Whosoever has appeared for certain examination of the professional level, be it SBR or SBL, they must be understanding my point that it is really difficult to manage the information sometimes because you are given a big case study, you are giving certain case scenarios, and there's no reading time at the start also which is given. So it becomes really important and it becomes really critical to go through the case studies and decide which one to attempt first, because each case study is going to take certain time, right? There are exhibits also that you need to understand, that you need to read. So sometimes it takes a lot of time, and the planning of the overall information becomes very difficult. There are certain information which require twice or thrice reading, and that is why it is said that managing information is one of the critical factors. Yes, sir, reading exhibits and then framing the answer and then finally write. Yes, that is really important to understand. Okay. So whenever we would be solving the question for any topic, what we would be focusing on is managing the information. That is what should be our focus while managing the information of a particular case study or a case scenario. What is the exam time? What is the exam time? Although it is appearing on the screen, but again, I would like you all to answer. What is the exam time? Are you all aware about it? What is the exam time? 3 hour 15 minutes. So in short, we can say that it is 185, sorry, 195 minutes, right? 195 minutes, 3 hour 15 minutes, 195 minutes. Okay. So we will be getting roughly good amount of time for each question. Okay. 1.95 minutes per mark. Okay. Okay. So it is really important for us to utilize that time very critically, because although we are getting good amount of time, but the questions are also very large. It requires proper planning. Sometimes we might need to reread the questions, and that is why we should have a proper planning. So whenever we'll be solving question, we will focus on managing the information that is given on the question. Okay, that is one. So I especially struggle how to prepare for revision for theory papers. No worries, we will be understanding about the revision parts. Plus my teaching methodology is going to be like, we are not going to study the next topics and so on, but whenever we meet for the next week, or on the next week, on Saturday or next Saturday, after completing the sessions for this Saturday and Sunday, we would be revising the whole syllabus that we have studied about in this week. Similarly, we will be revising it later on also, so we would be doing the cumulative revision again and again. That is how I feel that we would be in a position to revise it as well as remember it, because it is a theory subject. So proper understanding is first of all very much required. Then after understanding, you should remember the critical points, the key words, not the full sentence but the keywords. So we will focus on that, and after that the revision is really important. So we will cover all of that in our classes only. What examiner expects? Yes. Is it for December 2023? Yes, December 2023 and March 2024. So my target is to secure world rank in AAA. Guide us accordingly. Definitely, you could secure it. Okay. So exam time is 3 hours 15 minutes long. No reading time at the start. We are focusing on these critical information in our first lecture solely because we should have proper understanding, and after understanding about all these points, you could also come up with good questions. We could have a fruitful discussion, and we could actually have the constructive suggestion during the class. Approx how many lectures? Roughly 20 to 25 lectures would be there. That is roughly 60 to 70 hours of lectures would be there. Okay. So then after that, correct interpretation of the requirements. We just said that understanding the meaning of the verb is really important, or to understand the proper expectations of the examiner is really important. So we would be discussing about correct interpretation of the requirements. So what is a common point? A case study is given, and at the last the requirement would be given. What do you all do generally? You just read the case study and then you read the requirement, right? Generally we do that only. Agreed? Requirement first. Okay, that's great. If you read the requirement first, that's great, because sometimes I read the requirement first, right? But by default we start reading the case study and then we move towards the requirement, right? So particularly for AA paper, what we need to do is we first of all need to read the requirement, that is what is specifically asked in the question. Okay, we need to read the requirement first, then we have to read the case study, so that we can relate the relevant answer points to the requirements, and then we should read the requirement again, so as to ensure that whatever we are thinking to write in the answer is appropriate or not based on the facts given in the question. So correct interpretation, under correct interpretation of the requirement, read the requirement first, then read the rest of the question, and then read the requirement again, and then start your answer. Okay. Now, there are multiple types of answering. If I start now, is it possible to opt for two papers? Um, See, you will have to look at your schedule personally, because these classes are weekend lectures, right? So if you can manage certain other subject on the weekday, then definitely you can manage for two, opt for two papers as well. Although if your schedule does not allow you to study on the weekdays, then you should not go for two papers as far as I suggest. But if your schedule allows you to go for study on weekdays as well, then definitely you can opt for two papers. Okay, then answer planning. Okay, yeah. So then answer planning. There are two kinds of answers generally, bullet answers or paragraph answers. Which one is better? Bullet pointed answer or paragraph answer? Which one is better? Which one is better? Points. Okay. What about others? What others have to say? Point wise. Okay. Brings attention to the substance. Depends upon requirement. Yes, exactly. Depends upon requirement. There are certain questions in which bullet pointed answers would be much more fruitful. And there are certain questions in which paragraph based answer would be more fruitful. Can you give me an example of these two types of questions where bullet point answer would be more relevant? Can you give me an example of the question where bullet pointed answer would be more relevant? Audit plan. Okay. Audit procedures. What all procedures would be performed? What is the hierarchy to be followed? Right. Bullets for answers involving stages or steps. Okay. Okay. Where we have a specific things to tell. Yes. Okay. Or a process or a hierarchy to tell. Okay. And for paragraph discussion based questions, okay, where you are asked to discuss. Okay. So if you are asked to discuss in detail about the qualifications of an auditor, okay, so what all qualification of what all criteria an auditor should fulfill, will you answer in bullet points or paragraph? Bullet point. You are asked a question that what all are the requirements or the basic qualifications of an auditor. Would you like to answer in bullet pointed answers, a list, or paragraph? Which one? Points. Okay. Why? Because we are mentioning on the specific details. Okay, that's good. Can you give me an example for paragraph answer? Paragraph answer. An example. Like I have given you an example for bullet points, right? Any one example for paragraph answers? Reporting questions. Okay. So which kind of opinion would you select? Right? Which kind of opinion would you select? Whether it would be an adverse opinion or a qualified opinion or a disclaimer of opinion or an unmodified opinion. That could be paragraph. Define ISA, yes. If a direct question is given that mention the requirements of ISA 200, say, so you can give the paragraph answer. Okay. Evaluation based question, definitely yes. Okay. Then efficient numerical ethical answers. Okay. Then efficient numerical analysis. When we say numerical analysis, are there going to be certain numerical analysis in AAA? Are there going to be certain numerical analysis in AAA? Can they be there? Yes. Which topic? We have discussed about the syllabus, right? Which topic could have certain numerical analysis? Materiality, maybe, yes. Materiality, good point. So materiality might have certain numerical analysis, right? Okay. Okay, tell me, is there a scope also? Okay. No, not in scope, but yes, in materiality. Okay. Can you tell me that is there a particular standard which is formed for materiality? Is there a particular standard which is formed for materiality? Yes. Which one? Do you remember? 320, I guess. Okay. Materiality. Okay, let us just go to the ebook and check if it is mentioned over there. Okay. Let's start with 320 only. Okay. And see if it is matching. See, 320 materiality in planning and performing an audit. So absolutely yes. ISA 320 is materiality. Okay. Okay. So whenever there would be numerical analysis involved in your question, what you have to do is you have to explain your workings where relevant. When we say explain your workings, what do we mean by it? Explain your working, that is create working notes. Explain your working, that means creating working notes, right? And annexure. Okay, yes, working notes and annexure. Okay. What about others? Explain your workings. In a spreadsheet, back the answer with numerical workings. Yes. Showing working notes in short. Yes. Okay. What else? Anybody else has to say something? Explain your workings. Explain your workings where relevant. So what happens is, imagine a scenario where you are giving an answer for a ratio analysis, okay, or a materiality, okay. That materiality is say 100,000, okay. Now there are certain questions where what you are required to do is you are required to explain that what is the meaning of this $100,000. That $100,000 means that anything which goes beyond $100,000, any message statement which goes beyond $100,000 cannot be ignored. So you actually have to write this line there, or you ideally you are required to write this line there. That is, what is the meaning of this $100,000 which you have calculated as a materiality? Okay, so that means explaining your workings, not just calculating it as a working note, but to explain that what is the meaning of the result of that working note. Similarly, when you do the ratio analysis, sometimes you calculate the inventory turnover ratio, right? So you should actually explain that what is the meaning of this inventory turnover ratio which we have calculated. So that is the meaning of explain your workings where relevant. First of all, did you understand this? Yes. Okay. Then effective writing and presentation. What all points are covered under effective writing and presentation? Number one, we should always use the headings. So whenever we are answering, wherever it is possible to put an heading, put a heading, we should put a heading there. That is what all points we are answering. If there is a reference to a particular standard, we should write it in the heading part, right? Then can we write the short sentences, phrases? Can we write phrases in examination? Can we write phrases in examination? No, right. So what you should do is you should write your answer to the point. Okay, you don't need to write pages and pages. Okay, you can write your answer in short, but it should be in full sentences. That you should not use phrases in your examination. You should not use undefined abbreviations. Okay, for example, ISA you can write because it is a defined abbreviation for international standards on auditing. Okay, then what should you focus on first? Doing the calculation or explaining your calculations? What should you focus on first? Doing the calculation or explaining the calculation? Definitely doing the calculation, because without doing the calculation, you cannot explain the calculation. Then, what all are certain points to be remembered for good time management? What all are certain points to be remembered for good time management in your AAA examination? Good time management, certain points which we must remember. How much time on reading? Okay, how much time on reading, how much time on planning, how much time on actually writing? Read the requirement first and look for that in the case study. Okay, how to start? Okay. Okay, so since you all have researched about it. Some of you have appeared about certain ACC examinations, so you are aware about it. But from my end, we would be discussing about time management later on when we would be solving the question. Okay, instead of just telling you that how time management should be there, what we will be doing is we will be solving the question. After 2 3 questions, when we would be moving towards fourth fifth questions, then we would be discussing about the time management. But to answer now, when you're solving the initial questions, or when we would be solving the initial questions, our focus should be on time management or accuracy. Our focus should be on time management or accuracy. Accuracy. What about others? Our focus should be on time management or accuracy. Accuracy and presentation. Yes. So whatever we are answering should be correct first. If it is correct, then by practice we could actually increase our time management and speed, and that is how we say that accuracy should be focused first, because with practice you can increase your time management or time efficiency, but with practice you cannot increase your accuracy. Okay, so good time management we'll discuss later on. Then with this we completed the basics of everything we needed to discuss. So we started with the discussion of the syllabus, then we moved towards format of the examination, then certain additional important points, then exam success skills also. We have discussed about all of them. First of all, do you think that all this whole discussion was fruitful? First of all, do you think that, or you were aware about a lot of points already, nothing new? You can be honest, you can be honest, nothing new, or yes, you got to know something new, something informative. Yes, it helped. Okay, great. Okay, so now we would be discussing about the core audit process, and we would be discussing about a lot of basic points regarding the auditing procedures. But before that, do you want to take another break of 2 to 5 minutes? Because it's again more than an hour. Because efficiency in a study is really important. If I keep on speaking, you might not get what I am speaking, right? You might not be interested after some time. So break. But we should definitely return by within 5 minutes. Will that be fine? Okay, so a 5 minute break. Thank you so much. A 5 minute break. Please do not go out of the session. Just mute it. Hello, everybody's back. Please confirm on the chat box. Okay. Okay, so shall we resume? Yes. Great. Okay, so now we are going to discuss about the audit process. Like we discussed, there are three elements of any audit process, which is planning phase, execution phase, and reporting phase. We discussed about one example of the planning phase, execution phase, and the reporting phase. But now we are going to discuss in detail. Okay, so whosoever belongs to EY India, they must have been made aware about a software called Canvas, right? Does that Canvas allows you to do the planning as well as execution as well as reporting, or any one element of it? Do we have to maintain any class notes, sir? Uh, that per- uh, that particularly depends on you. If you if you see that there are certain good points which are discussed in the class, which might not be available in the uh, book, or you want to write certain examples, what all we discuss in the class, then you can maintain your class notes. Although it is really advisable that you maintain certain class notes, it would help you to revise it later on. Okay, so that is why it is really recommended that you maintain certain class notes, not mentioning every point, but to mention all the good points that you encounter as part of this class. Okay, because there would be a lot of value addition points that we would be discussing about. Okay. Okay, so all the EY India guys, please tell me, you have used Canvas software, right? Canvas software you must have used. Heard about it from audit colleagues? Okay, no sir. Okay, okay, no, not an issue. So what I'll tell you is, what happens is, in all of these big four accounting firms, big four accounting and auditing firms, the software that they create, okay, the cloud software that they create, this allows them to do the planning as well, to do the execution as well, and to do the reporting as well. Okay, how they create certain memos to create the planning documents. Okay, then all of their worksheets or work papers gets uploaded into the software only. That is how execution process is done. The samples are also generated through the software only, and the final reports are also sometimes generated or at least uploaded on this software. So all of this software helps you to do the planning as well as the execution as well as the reporting part of it. First of all, did you understand this? Just for big fours, did you understand this? Yes. Now, let us discuss in detail about what do we mean by planning stage of an audit, what do we mean by execution stage of an audit, and what do we mean by the reporting stage of an audit. Okay. So let us take example of a very good company. Can you suggest one good company to take the example of? Any good company? Tata? Zomato? Okay. Okay. Let us take example of that company that Kui must be aware about, because she's in Singapore, so she must not be aware about all the famous Indian brands. So Kui, can you tell me that, are you aware about a company called Reliance, which is India based? Reliance Industries Limited, RIL. Are you aware about it? No? Okay. So let us take example of a company which is Tata Motors. Okay. So particularly for Qui, Tata Motors is a company which produces cars in India. It is one of the biggest automotive players in the country. Okay, so Tata Motors prepares cars as the first end thing, cars and trucks. Okay, now imagine a scenario where you have been appointed as the auditor of Tata Motors. Everybody else is comfortable with Tata Motors. Do we need certain more information about Tata Motors? Yes, yes. Okay, so now you have been appointed as the auditor of Tata Motors. Okay, now you have to tell me certain procedures that you will do as part of your planning phase. Then we would be discussing about certain execution phase procedures, and then we would be discussing about the reporting phase. So what happened was, you have been appointed as the Tata Motors auditors, as the auditors of the Tata Motors. Now you have to do certain planning documents. So what are procedures you will do under planning? Please tell me. Based on your current knowledge. Identify detailed scope. Okay, so first of all, what we will see is, what is our scope of audit? whether our appointment was appropriate or not, and what is our scope of audit. That is, whether we are performing the quarterly review of interim financial information, or we are performing the statutory audit for the whole year, or we are performing due diligence or forensic audit, or what. So what is our scope? We would first of all understand that. Okay, understood. Good point. Planning point, initial point. What is UT or UTE? Sorry, didn't understand. Understanding the entity. Do you want to say understanding the entity? Okay. UTE, understanding the entity. So after understanding the scope of your audit and after agreeing to the scope of your audit, the first process that you should do is understand the entity. There is a memo which is created. I'm telling you about the practical aspect of it. Okay. There's a memo which is created, which is named as understanding the entity or understanding the business. Okay. In that, what you say is, okay, how would you understand the entity? There are certain factors that should be there. How do you understand the entity? There might be certain factors. Please tell me. What all points should you cover to understand the entity? Business structure. Okay, so whether it is a proprietary business, whether it is an LLP business, whether it is a partnership business, whether it is a private limited company business, whether it is a listed business, so corporate structure. Okay. Process diversification. So whether it manufactures or whether it outsources, or what is the sales process, what is the purchase process. Okay. Then management, who all are the management of the company. Okay. Okay, whether they have they are independent or not. Okay. Then business nature, whether it is in the automotive nature or FMCG goods or what. Okay. What is the ERP? What is the accounting software that the organization uses? Okay, understood. Should we also cover the laws and regulations that are applicable to the company? Should we also cover the understanding of that? FRF, financial reporting framework. Okay, laws and regulations that are applicable to the company. Should we cover that? Why do we need to cover laws and regulations as a separate item? For example, in India, income tax law, Companies Act, right? Provident Fund Act, right? Gratuity Act, Bonus Act, all of these are applicable to a lot of companies. So we should cover them as part of our understanding the business, that what all things. In case of automotive, motor vehicle sector is also applicable, right? To understand on what grounds testing steps are to be designed. That is one good point, but I would like to extend it further, that we have to understand, or we should understand, the laws and regulations applicable to a particular entity, so as to understand first of all that whether the operations of the entity are framed in the required structure or not. So for example, in case of automotive, if there's certain specific licensing that is required for automotive manufacturers, whether the company has that license or not, right? Very basic point. But a lot of companies might be entering into the illegal stuff and they might not be having the license. So by understanding the laws and regulations, you get well aware about what all are the legal requirements that an entity needs to fulfill, whether the entity is fulfilling that, and that is how you get comfort over the legality of the business conducted by the entity. Understood this point? Understood this point? Yes. When we used to study for our business studies syllabus in class 11th or standard 11th or any of our graduation programs, we need to had to understand about certain environments, right? 6 kind of environment: external environment, internal environment. Do you all remember that? External environment. Yes, please tell me a few. Please tell me external environment, internal environment. PESEL analysis. Yes, yes, yes. What do we mean? Let us answer one by one. What do we mean by P in PESEL? What do we mean by P in PESEL? Let's just go one by one so that we are able to understand it. Political, right? PESEL, political. Number one is P stands for political. That is, whenever you are doing the understanding of the business, you should cover PESEL. If you cover PESEL, then you cover all aspects of the business. PESEL as in, what are the governance structure that an entity is covered under? Okay. PESL, political environment. Then economic environment, that is in which country does the business of the in which countries, in what all countries the business of the company is operated, what all are the specific legal requirements there. Then social, what is the brand image of the company, how company fulfills its social responsibility. Then technological, what all softwares are adopted by the company, how technological advanced a company is. Then legal, what all laws and regulations are applicable over the company, how the company actually complies with all these laws and regulations. And then the overall environment. Okay, if you complete the PESL analysis, then you will be completing all parts of the business. Understood this point? After completing the understanding the business, what you will do? After completing the understanding the business, what you will do? Anything? Focus areas. Okay. What you'll try to do is you'll try to look for the significant accounts, that is from the balance sheet or the statement of position and statement or income statement or a statement of profit or loss. You'll try to look for certain significant accounts which could be considered as the material accounts or the most significant accounts for a company. Can you do so? Can you do so? See, as of now, I'm not talking about the theoretical part, that design and audit strategy or not. I'm just telling you with a brief example. Okay. So can you do that for Tata Motors? Significant accounts? Yes. What all could be the significant accounts for Tata Motors? Based on your current, which forms basis of the company? Purchases. Can I say inventory? Can I say inventory? The final produced cars? Would that be the major chunk of the business? Okay. Major chunk of the balance sheet. Okay. Then what? Revenue, definitely significant account. Fixed asset, as in the machineries, the buildings and all. Does that form part of basic of Tata Motors? Labor is not covered under statement of financial position or not. Payroll, yes. So all of these would be considered as significant accounts. So you'll try to look for significant accounts. Then can I say that you'll look for risk, that which is the biggest risk area? Just discussing in a bit as a helicopter view, not very specific. Can you say that after identifying the significant accounts, you look for the most risky accounts, that is where the risk would be highest? Yes. After that, what you'll do? Now you have identified that, for example, inventory and revenue are the highest risk areas. Okay. Now what you'll do? Highest risk areas are inventory and revenue. Process control, you'll try to understand the process which is generally called a significant class of transaction, or you'll try to understand the overall process which is followed to maintain inventory and revenue. Will you do that? Extent of audit to be done will be decided. Yes, definitely. So you will understand the process, right? After understanding the process, will you look for the risk, that is what could go wrong, the internal controls? In short, would you try to look for internal controls? Potential risk associated with focus areas, definitely. So you will perform your test of controls, in short, right? You will perform your test of controls, TOC. Yes. Okay. Now the result of TOC would be either effective or ineffective, right? The result of TOC would either be effective or ineffective, right? Yes, the result of TOC would either be effective or ineffective. Okay. Assuming that the result of TOCs are effective, then what you will do next? What you will do next? Decide the sample size. Okay. Now let's take a break here. When you were doing, or when you were doing the understanding the business, were you in the planning phase or the execution phase? Were you in the planning phase or the execution phase? Planning. When you decided the significant accounts, that inventory, purchases, revenue are the significant accounts, were you in the planning stage or the execution stage? Planning. Okay. When you decided that what all are the highest risk areas like revenue and inventory in our case, were you in the planning stage or the execution stage? planning. Okay. When you moved towards understanding the process, like in our case, the revenue process and inventory process, were you in the planning stage or the execution stage? Planning. Okay. Now, when you were entering into the process understanding, when you are entering into the process understanding, then you are in the planning stage. Okay. Then you decided on certain samples with for TOC, that is test of controls. Now, now are you in the planning stage or the execution stage? IMP, sorry. IMP, sorry, I didn't understand the meaning. Implementation, yes. Okay, execution stage, implementation stage, right? Now, after the results of TOC are effective, test of controls are effective. Now, what you have done is you have started the number audit, that is the figure audit, and you have entered into sample testing, that is TOD, test of details. Now, are you into planning stage or execution stage? Execution stage, great. After this, you would be collecting the results of the audit of test of controls as well as test of details, and you will be summarizing it into one particular format. Will you be in the execution stage or the reporting stage then? Reporting stage, or can I say completion stage also before reporting? Completion and reporting stage, will that be more appropriate? Because reporting means when you are giving your report to somebody, here you are just completing your procedures. So the third box should include completion and reporting. Okay. So completion and reporting, you're in the completion and final review. Yes, completion, final review and reporting stage. Okay. After that, you have formed your conclusion that, okay, in this case, qualified opinion has to be issued. Now you have signed your reports and have issued to the relevant stakeholders. Now, which stage are you in? Reporting stage. So with this example, we can definitely very easily understand the difference between the planning stage, execution stage, and the reporting stage. That is, whenever we are planning or we are in the stage of deciding that what needs to be done, or we are in the process of evaluation, then that is called as planning stage. Okay. After the planning stage is over and you are actually up to performing the audit procedure, when you're exactly performing the audit procedures on certain amount of samples, on certain amount of data, then that is called as the execution stage. And when you're deriving the conclusions of all these audit procedures, then you are in the completion and reporting stage. Is that clear? First of all, this is very basic of your auditing principles. Is this clear? First of all, yes, I'm expecting some more answers. Okay, so there are three phases of audit: planning, execution, and reporting. Now, under planning, you perform the appointment formalities, like we have checked that whether our appointment was appropriate or not. Then background information, that is understanding the business. Then identify and assess risk were also under planning. And then creating audit strategy and plan was also under planning. Then under execution, we performed the audit procedures, we reviewed the documents, and we tested certain transactions under TOC and TOD, right? Do you agree till here? Yes. Then under communicating audit results or completion and reporting, we provide draft report for the comments. Then if there is any correction to be done, then we do it, and then we distribute the final report to the relevant stakeholders or appropriate individuals. Do you understand these three phases first of all? Sorry, do you understand these three phases first of all? Do you understand these three phases particularly? Although it is not directly covered as part of your syllabus, but I understand that you all have not appeared for double examination of skills level, and that is why I'm taking these basic topics also, so that we are well aware about the syllabus before moving towards the technical topics. Okay, do you understand this? Yes. Yes. Okay. Now, there are certain types of audit procedures. So what all types of audit procedures are you aware about? Types of audit procedures. Types of audit procedures. What all are you aware about? Types of audit procedures. Anybody? types of audit procedures? Substantive procedures, okay. But under substantive procedures, there are certain types. So when I say types of audit procedure, it means types of substantive procedures only. No, corroborative are evidences. That is types of evidences. Corroborative, those are evidences. Persuasive evidence or corroborative evidence, those are the example types of evidences. Okay, types of audit procedure. Okay, I'll tell you one. Inspection is one type of audit procedure, right? You can inspect, okay, or inquire. Verification, okay. Some more. Vouching, okay. Process walkthrough, okay. Please tell me. Yes, more. See, it is really important for us to understand the types of audit procedure before actually deciding upon which procedures to perform, right? First of all, do you understand the importance of this heading? Why we are understanding about types of audit procedure? Because in the later part of this discussion, we will be, or in the later part of AAA discussion, we would have to discuss that what all audit procedures should be performed. So we should be well aware about the types of audit procedures that are available to us, right? Physical verification, okay. Okay. So see, I'll not say that any of your answers are wrong. I won't say that. Okay. But all the answers that you have given so far are examples and not the types. Okay. Those are the examples of those types of audit procedures. Okay. So we'll discuss about that. Number one is inquiry. What are inquiry procedures? Can you inquire? Can you inquire? Can you inquire your client? Okay, now listen to me. Okay. Inquire. One audit procedure is inquire, inquiry. Can inquiry be an audit procedure? Can inquiry be an audit procedure? Yes. So when you do the understanding the business, okay, do you actually under understanding the business, when you go for the corporate structure, do you actually go to every person and ask that what is their designation? No, you ask one person who is the relevant person that, okay, what is the organizational structure? And then you note it down, right? That is the process you follow, correct or incorrect? Right? So this is called as inquiry procedure. That is, certain audit procedures are performed in the inquiry mode. That is, you ask the relevant person, they answer you, and then you note it down as an evidence. Inquiry procedure. Okay. Confirmation. What do we mean by confirmation? What do we mean by confirmation? See, some of these audit procedure you must have performed. Some of these audit procedure you might not have performed, and that is why we are studying about it. So confirmation, what do we mean by confirmation? Written response, okay. Written response directly obtained. Getting third party confirmation on debts, okay, that is one good example. So confirmations are not just on debt, but it might be on cash and bank balances also. So confirmations are written, directly obtained evidences from third parties. Okay, that is why written confirmations are the best source of or best types of evidences, audit evidences. Okay, because it is received from a third party, that is independent party. It is received directly by the auditor, that is the client is not involved, and it was in the written format, not in the oral format. And that is why a written response is considered as the best one. Okay, so confirmations. Okay, so can you obtain confirmations? We usually obtain confirmation for cash and bank balances, debts, loans, right? Creditor and debtor balances. So confirmation is one audit procedure. When you receive or when you accept a confirmation, can you say that your audit procedure, you have performed an audit procedure? Can you say that? High reliability, yes. Can you say that? Yes. So that is why we can say that the confirmation is one type of audit procedure. Okay. Then analytical procedure. What do we mean by analytical procedure? It is a type of audit procedure, right? Analytical procedure. What do we mean by it? Analytical procedure. Study of relationships or trends. Okay, so I'll give you one example. See, we are only left with 10-15 minutes. Okay, so let us devote it after that. So this would be the last topic that we'll cover. After that, we will be covering just basic audit terminologies. If time allows, then we won't be covering anything. Okay, so the analytical procedure. What should be the right way to audit rent? If you have been given an assignment to audit rent expense, what should be the amount, or what should be the procedure? So you have been given an information that the company has rented one building. Okay, the company has rented one building. The amount for that one building is $100,000 per month. $100,000 per month. Okay, and the building was available for 12 months in the year. Okay, the company has booked 10 or $1 million as rent expense. Is that correct? I'll repeat. Monthly rent expense is $100,000. The building was available for 12 months. The company has booked $1 million as their rent expense. Is their rent expense booking correct? No? No? Okay, why so? Why so? No, it should be 1.2 million. How did you derive it? You multiplied $100,000 by 12, that is for 12 months. So it should be 1.2 million. But in, but in reality, it is only $1 million. So you can say that, okay, 0.2 million is a misstatement, right? 0.2 million is a misstatement. How did you derive this? Through analytical procedure. That is by understanding the trends, the relationships. So that is why analytical procedure is one kind of audit procedure. Did you understand this? We'll take a lot of examples later on, but for initial phase, did you understand this? Okay. Then inspection as in you can actually verify certain evidences, right? Test certain evidences. Then observation. What do we mean by observation? What do we mean by observation? Observation. One example where you perform observation as audit procedure. Are you aware about any example where you perform observation as your audit procedure? Any one example where you perform observation as your audit procedure? Looking at the procedure being performed by others. Yes, that is the core meaning of observation. Yes. Process walkthrough. Okay. Process walkthrough is one good example. Yes. Inventory counting. Amazing example. Inventory counting. What happens is in inventory counting, the company itself calculates it. You are just there observing them whether they are counting correctly or not. So observation is one procedure which is performed at the process walkthrough as well as inventory counting as well. Good point. Okay, observation. So observation is again one type of audit procedure. Now, two more are left. One is recalculation. What do we mean by recalculation? What do we mean by recalculation? Where could you apply this audit procedure, recalculation? Where could you apply this? Taxation. Okay, you can recalculate the tax. Great, good point. You guys can actually unmute yourself and answer. No need to just keep on writing on the chat box. If you want, you can unmute yourself. From my side, you are free to unmute yourself and answer. Not an issue. I understand that sometimes writing big answers might be a little difficult. So what you can do is you can actually unmute yourself and answer. Not an issue from my end.
We can calculate depreciation, check the work in progress status based on the agreement.
Okay, that is one part of re-performance. Okay, that is great. That is great. Okay. Can I say that it could be done in the depreciation also? So when you are auditing, when you audit depreciation, okay, depreciation for the year, you can actually recalculate it using the details that are given for the asset or for the fixed assets. Can you do so? Yes. So recalculation is particularly used for taxation also. It could be used for inventory also. It could be used for depreciation also. Okay, good examples. All of these are good examples. Depreciation, recomputation, that is recalculation. And the last audit procedure is reperformance. Can you give me an example where you reperform the procedure? Where you reperform the procedure? And anywhere where you reperform the procedure? Reperformance as the audit procedure. Where you reperform it? Internal controls, okay, you reperform it, okay, good one. You reperform it. Internal controls, walkthrough memorandum, okay. In walkthrough also, what you do is you reperform. Although they have the evidence, then also you reperform. So reperformance is also the one. But the problem is, how do you remember this? There are multiple 7 8 audit procedures, right? How do you remember that? Do you agree that it is going to be a challenge? Sometimes you might get confused. Sometimes you might lose one or two. Yes, confusing. Okay. Do you guys believe in abbreviations and all, that we should create certain good abbreviation for certain important points as part of our class only, which would help you? Do you feel that? Yes. Okay. So there's an abbreviation also which is mentioned over here. I'll just tell you. There's an abbreviation also which is mentioned, which is ICAI ORR, which is I stands for inspection, C stands for confirmation, A stands for analytical procedure, I stands for inquiry, O stands for observation, R stands for recalculation, and again R stands for reperformance. We have discussed about each one of them. Now, somebody was asking that whether we should take notes or not. So if you want to take notes, you can take note for this particular slide, which is types of audit procedures: inspection, confirmation, analytical procedure, inquiry, observation, recalculation, reperformance, and the acronym is ICAIORR. For now, you can take the screenshot. Is the screen visible to all of you? Please tell me, is the screen visible to all of you? We are just left with 5-10 minutes, so don't worry about that. Yes. So if you want, you can take the screenshot and then note it in your notebook later on, in your notepad later on. Okay. Was this good acronym, ICIORR? Will you be able to remember it at least better than inspection, confirmation, analytical procedure, inquiry, observation, reperformance, recalculation? I think it would be a little better. What do you think? Yes. 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 Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So now that we are left with 5 to 10 minutes, can I cover one last topic? Yes. Okay. Okay. So the last topic for today is basic audit terminologies. Okay. You guys can answer. We can agree on the meaning of these points. And if we agree, we can move forward. Assertions. What do we mean by assertions? What do we mean by assertions? What do we mean by assertion? You can unmute yourself, okay? For this slide, you can at least unmute yourself, and then you can answer, because answers might be a little detailed one, which might be a little uncomfortable to write on the chat box. So you can unmute yourself and answer. Assertions. What do we mean by assertions? Anybody? Anybody answering? It could be on the chat box also, not an issue. Assertion, what do we mean by assertion? If you don't know, please write it on the chat box that I don't know. That's also okay. You're not expected to remember everything. I don't know, not an issue. Okay. Claims made by the business. Okay, I'll tell you. What happens is whenever we are auditing any item, okay, that is to be benchmarked or that is to be verified against certain critical principles. Okay, so for example, if I am auditing the fixed asset of a company, okay, fixed assets of a company, in our case Tata Motors, fixed assets of a Tata Motors. Now we are confused, how do we verify whether the fixed assets of Tata Motors are booked correctly or not? So one way to ensure that is to check the rights and obligation, that is all assets and liabilities which are owned by Tata Motors are covered or not. Can that be one way to verify fixed assets existence? Okay, can that be one way? First of all, rights and obligation, that is all fixed assets which are owned by Tata Motors are covered or not, or do we have, or have we missed certain? Should that be one procedure, right? After that, can we say that what all assets are booked are actually existing or not? That is, there was one chair which has been broken down, but it is still appearing in books, which should not happen. So we should do the reverse calculation also, that what all assets are appearing are actually existing or not. Can that be one procedure, which is existence, right? Do you agree? Yes. Then the third one, the assets which are existing, the assets which are existing are valued correctly or not, that is whether the valuation that is mentioned by the company is correct or not. That would be third way of checking it. So the way of checking the checkpoints which are created while performing any audit procedure are called as assertions. The checkpoints which are created while performing any audit procedure are called as assertions. What all are these checkpoints? Now I see that you all have actually remembered it or got reminded of. So yes, completeness, that's great. Okay, so I'll repeat it. Okay, or you can tell me. Existence is there, existence or occurrence is there. We will be understanding about all of them in detail later on as well. So existence or occurrence, okay, valuation, completeness, rights and obligations,
Disclosures as well.
disclosures as well, presentation and disclosure, P&D, right? Whether it is presented correctly or not in the balance sheet and P&L. Okay, so all of these are assertions. We would be understanding about them in detail, maybe in tomorrow's session. Okay, then misstatement. What do we mean by misstatement? What do we mean by misstatement? What do we mean by misstatement? If we define it in the regular terms or in general terms, misstatement, we say material misstatement in audit, right? So what do we mean by misstatement? Material we'll understand later on. Misstatement.
Incomplete reporting, incorrect reporting.
Okay, these are all examples, right? These are all examples of misstatement. But when we go towards the particular meaning of misstatement, so if you are asked to define misstatement, what is misstatement? Can I say difference between what is and what should be? Can I say that?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So difference between what is and what should be, that is, if the car should be disclosed at $1 million, but it has been disclosed at $1.2 million, then that is a misstatement. Difference between what is as in $1 million and what should be $1.2 million. Okay, so difference between what is and what should be is misstatement. Do we understand this?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Then materiality. Material. How can we say that something is material or not? How can we say something is material?
Significant.
Sorry?
Significant, like has
Significant.
substance.
Okay, okay. Is there some way of this defining what would be significant?
Have some substance to it, some value.
Okay, okay. Can I say that anything which could impact the decision making of users of financial statement is called as material.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, anything which could impact the decision making of users of financial statements is called as material. Now there are certain calculations also which are given under materiality, right? That essay that we discussed about 320. So materiality, we will be discussing about that in detail. Then audit risk. What is audit risk? Don't worry, we will be taking this basic audit terminologies as our first session tomorrow, so that we are able to understand everything. But just for the basic understanding audit risk, what do we mean by it? Audit risk? Anybody? Okay, I'll just say it, okay? And you tell me whether you have heard of it or not. Risk that the auditor will issue an inappropriate opinion when financial statements are materially misstated. This is called as audit risk. Did you hear it somewhere? Did you read it before? It's a bit technical definition, so I understand it's a little difficult to remember word by word. But did you hear it? Now that you have heard it from me, did you come to think of it, that it was there, audit risk?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Then audit evidence and its types. There are audit evidences and its types, like persuasive evidences, conclusive evidences, like we discussed. So we'll discuss about that tomorrow. Then audit reports. There are different types of audit opinions. We have discussed qualified opinion. What else?
Disclaimer
Disclaimer,
and unmodified opinion.
unmodified, and adverse. Adverse, qualified,
Adverse.
disclaimer, and unmodified. That's great. No worries. We will be taking basic audit terminologies later on, because I understand it's been 3 hours. So all of your energies might also be down. So don't worry about it. We'll be taking basic audit terminologies as our first part tomorrow, so that we are able to devote the required time to it. And then we would be starting with section A, which is regulatory environment. Okay. So today we have completed all the basic understanding that we were about to do. And tomorrow we can start with basic audit terminologies, and then we can directly start with section A, which is regulatory environment. Okay. So we will be understanding about international regulatory frameworks first. Understood this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that's
Yes, sir.
great. Now let us take just 2 minutes, because this was our first session. Okay. So can you all please give me the right feedback, that what, if there's anything that needs to be improved, the speed, the sound quality, the pronunciations, anything that needs to be improved for further sessions?
Sir, if we can get the PDF, I guess
Okay.
it would help us to make notes on it directly. Anything that we
Uh,
hear in between of the lecture.
okay, I'll have to check with the institution, with the VGLD first. I'm not sure whether you can get the PDFs from us. I'll have to check. We'll get back to you about it.
Perfect.
Yes. Anything else? Because see, my motive is to give you the best outcome that I could give. And I understand that every students are different, every student is different, so there might be certain different expectations of you all guys from me. So please tell me about it, because this was our kind of first lecture. Okay, so if there are any improvement points, I would be happy to incorporate it. Nothing?
So I think the overall session was nice.
Okay.
My it was one confusion point which I had, that whether the exam is completely application based, or there will be parts wherein we'll have to code theory as well.
We'll have to
So
include theories. So
okay,
for that case studies and case scenarios, no, all the questions that we would be asking. So I told you, no, good time management we would be discussing later on, because we would be taking certain questions. So as we complete section A of our syllabus, okay, the regulatory environment, we would be solving certain questions of it. And there I would be defining in detail that what all kinds of questions could be there, and how you should answer. So you must be aware that we skipped one point, which is discussion of core verbs, right?
yeah, yes.
So when we would be solving the questions, then we would be starting with that discussion, and then we can take this discussion forward, that what all kinds of questions could be there, and how do we answer each kind of question, whether there could be direct questions, or we need to code the theories as well. So we would be understanding about each one of them there. Because see,
So-
I personally, yes, please say, please say.
No, because in that instance, today's class was very fruitful because this was just a bird eye view of the syllabus and more or less just an understanding of the paper pattern and all that.
Definitely.
So once we'll get into the technical topics, probably we'll have some more feedback to share.
Definitely.
So yeah, my personal opinion is that.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, so can we close the session now? The time has ended. Can we close the session? Any other thing?
That's all, sir.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
thank you. Good night.
Good night. Good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.